Hi guys, welcome to episode 63 of the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and I'll be your host today. I'm coming to you from my home in Bahrain. You can find me online as Mina86 on Ravelry, Mina Phillip on Instagram, and you can find the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes on the blog, which is knittingexpat.wordpress.com. And we have a group on Ravelry, which is Knitting Expat Podcast group. And yeah, you can find links to everywhere that you can find me below the video on YouTube, in the description box, in the episode thread, on the group, and in the show notes. So everything is pretty much linked everywhere. So yeah, welcome to all new and returning viewers. If it's your first time checking me out, thank you so much. And if you are a returning viewer, then I really appreciate you coming back every week. It's it's great. So thank you. So today, first things first, I apologise. I am slightly sniffly. My allergies are acting up today. So if I sound a bit off or anything, that's all it is. I'm not sick. I'm just a bit sniffly. And I've got a slightly different camera set up this week just because I broke the tripod I've been using. So my show notes are actually off to the side rather than before. It's always been below the camera, so it's not been too weird with me looking off screen all the time. So if I'm looking off screen at any point, it's because I'm just checking my notes to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. So the format for this week's podcast, I've got some coupon codes to share with you. There's some finished objects, some works in progress, acquisitions, knit along and giveaway news. I have a pattern review this week for you. Actually, it's a pattern collection review for you guys this week. Some Q&As and a little bit on Middle East life, and a bit of a week in review. So, like always, I try to keep the knitting content at the beginning, and that way, if you don't have time for the rest or you're not interested in the rest, you don't have to hang around. Right, so coupon codes. First off, we have a coupon code from Eternity March Knits, and that's from the lovely Tammy. She has an Etsy shop, which I will link in the show notes and in the episode thread. And the coupon code is Expat Socks 2016, so Expat Socks 2016, and the Expat Socks is in capitals, and that gives you 15% off at checkout for any purchases until the 11th of June. And I believe Tammy sells yarn, and I think she does project bags as well, but she has a good variety of stuff on her shop, so make sure you check her out. And then we also have a coupon code from the lovely Debbie, and she is part of the Never Cast Off podcast, and the coupon code for her is KEP30, and that gives you 30% off any of her patterns until the 30th of June this year. And she's also sent me a copy of her pattern, the Fireplace Embers shawl, and that's a DK weight shawl, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's DK. And she's also donated a copy to the podcast, so I'll be using a copy of that as part of the giveaway prizes for the chatter thread for the Budding Bluebells cow, which is currently going on in our group as well. So I will link her Ravelry shop in the show notes as well, so you can see if there are any patterns in there that you would like to get. Right, I think that pretty much covers it for the coupon codes. Like I said, the codes will be up in the threads, and if I remember, I will put them up on the screen. I realised last week after I'd hit publish on the video that I didn't put up any of the things that I had meant to put up on the screen, so I'm really sorry about that if that got confusing or you missed something. They were in the show notes and they were on the episode thread. So alright, so finished objects. First off is the Kavoth shawl. I believe that's how you say it. And this is how it has turned out after it has been blocked. It was interesting to knit. It wasn't difficult by any stretch, but I don't feel like I ever really got into the rhythm of it. It wasn't the most enjoyable knit for me. I just think maybe it just didn't suit me personally. I mean, I like the finished object. It's really nice. It's a really quite a methodical knit once you get into it, but I just never quite managed to get into it for some reason, and it became a real struggle to knit it towards the end. It wasn't the yarn's fault. I love knitting with the yarn. The yarn is dye for yarn. It's a little nugget I have left over. Dye for yarn in their merino silk superwash base. It's 75% wool, 25% silk. It's hand wash only. Not sure why it says superwash then. Oh, well, the merino is superwashed, the silk isn't. So it's 100 grams, 400 meters in the spouting lava colorway. So I actually had enough left over. I could have done another repeat on the shawl. I just didn't want to. I believe I did 24 repeats. The pattern had 25 repeats. So I could have done the 25th repeat before binding off. I just didn't want to. The shawl was long enough. And my friend who I've knit this for, it should be plenty long enough for her to wear around the neck. Yeah, so really nice, easy sort of to wear bandana style. I may have mentioned this before, but I'm knitting a bunch of shawls this year for my friends as gifts this year, my closest sort of like girlfriends, and I want to knit for most of them shawls or wraps, whatever, that are more sort of scarf-like in style, I guess, or not necessarily styles that have to be worn in the traditional shawl way. So it'll be shawls like in this sort of like asymmetrical shape or in garter stitch, so I don't have to worry about a wrong or right side. Things that are going to be very easy to wear everyday pieces that they will like. So this is the first out of 6 I'll be knitting this year, so that's fine. That's all good, and it shouldn't be a problem at all. But yeah, because I just really want to, there's only so many shawls and scarves and wraps and whatevers that I can wear. And my mum already has a pretty good collection of my hand knits. Not that she'll ever say no to anything I make that I want to give her. But yeah, I'd like to give some stuff to my other appreciative friends who enjoy my hand knits. And the only other issue is I wasn't necessarily, because I've been away from home for so long, I don't necessarily know what colours they would prefer or wear and stuff like that. So because I'm not there, I don't see them that often. So I've been asking them to let me know what their favourite colour combinations and colours are and stuff in general. So so I can make them things that they like. So this particular friend really likes red and black. So I kind of thought this fit the bill perfectly for that one. Great. And my second finished object, which I wasn't expecting to have as a finished object this week, but I ended up just flying through the shawl, is my Random Acts of Colour shawl, which you may have seen on Instagram already. And this is a lovely design by Debbie and Amy of the Periscoping Sisters podcast. And yeah, it's really fun design. It's called Random Acts of Colour. It's in honour of their sister Wendy, who passed away several years ago. And because she was very well known for doing random acts of kindness. So this is called Random Acts of Colour, and it will be coming out in a few weeks. 15th of June, I believe, is the anticipated release date. And they will be hosting a knit along. Sorry, I'm trying to fiddle with this and remember what I want to say. They'll be hosting a knit along in July, which is Wendy's birthday month, to celebrate. And they've had a few of us test knit the pattern for them. There we go. I'm going to twist that there. Jeez, I'm just trying to fiddle around. To test the pattern out for them. And Anzula was very kind in sponsoring the test knit and provided yarn for everyone to use for their shawls. So we each got to pick what colours we wanted, and I opted for this colour combination. I was very tempted to go for like a grey with 2 colours to kind of tone it down a bit, but I thought the whole idea of this shawl was that Wendy was a really loud, bright, colourful person, so why not go for a bright, loud, colourful shawl? So that's what I did. And so the colours that I've used, and as you can see there's a lot of yarn left over. So my colour A was Pesto, my colour B was Aqua, and my colour C was Rust. A few people have asked, like, how were you able to pick? There's like so many colours that Anzula used, and they're squishy bases, they're MCN base. What are the tags here? So that's the info for one of them. They don't actually have weights on the tags. It doesn't say per 100 grams, but my skeins were all, my Aqua and Pesto were 118 grams and my Rust was 116, so they're all over 100. I imagine these are more along the lines of the 4-ounce skeins, which are about 113 to 115 grams as standard rather than 100 gram skeins. but it's 352 meters per skein, roughly. And Hugo is just showing up, so he may come and like jump onto my lap in a second. But yeah, so we got to pick the colours we wanted, and I went for these 3. A few people asked how did I choose. Well, these 2 were actually, we were sent a page, we sent a link to their website which had all the colour cards, swatches on their site for the yarns, and these 2 were actually quite close together on the page. So as soon as I opened it, I could see those 2 together. I was like, yes, definitely going for those 2. You guys know I like orange and blues. 1 second. Come here. There we go. I saw those 2 together, and then I sort of scrolled down and I saw this really lovely sort of pesto green, and I sort of ummed and ahed, and I was looking at other colours. Like I said, I was looking at a grey, which would have looked beautiful, but at the same time I was like, I want to go with green. Why not? Because green goes well with blue and it goes well with orange, so I thought it would go well. I think it looks good. I like it. It's good. It's bright. It's colourful. And I think Hugo agrees. It's nice and comfy. What else was I going to say? Yeah, I think it was really quite interesting. I think it was Sue of the Periscoping Sisters, no, of the Legacy Knits podcast. She was saying that all of us who were testing, I think who else is testing? Me testing, Sue, Danny of Little Bobbins, and Katie of Inside Number 23. We've all picked colours that are very representative of our personalities, but all colour combinations just work really well, whether you go for subtle and more sort of, I say subtle, more not as loud colours like Danny has. Danny's gone for very soft, muted pinks and purples, just very Danny, like genuinely very much her in her colour choices. And again, Sue went for some lovely blues and purples, which look gorgeous together. And Hugo's now interrupting. And Katie's colour choices are also very representative of her personality, which I just thought was really interesting to see. Okay, Hugo, no, this isn't going to work. You are not you probably are the star of the show, but no one wants to see you that close up. Yeah, okay. You good little boy? He's probably still gonna try and climb onto the table in a second. But yeah, so that was that. I had knit up to like half of this first green section last week when I showed it to you, and then over the weekend I got to about halfway through the blue section, and then I did the rest in pretty much a day. It was a very quick knit. I think I actually found it quite difficult to get into it initially. Nothing to do with the pattern at all, or the yarn or anything. I wasn't in the right place. But yeah, once I got back from Dubai last week on Thursday evening, like over the weekend, I picked it up and I started working on it, and it started flying. I just think when I started it, I probably shouldn't have. I just wanted to have something to show you last week on the podcast, which probably isn't the best reason. But I'm glad I did. It all went well. It's really fun, really easy to read pattern. One thing I did learn with this shawl, I took the opportunity to practice some Portuguese knitting. It's it's called Portuguese knitting, but I know it's not only done in Portugal, if that makes sense. It's not the tradition. It's not only traditional in Portugal to knit that way. It's when you're knitting, you have the yarn that goes around the back of your neck or through a pin. So the yarn, when you're knitting, comes from the front rather than behind. I will link a video that I used to learn how to do it. I'd seen it done before. I just had never really learnt or taken the time to learn how to do it properly. So I just thought, and everything I've always heard about Portuguese knitting is that purling is so much easier than knitting with Portuguese knitting, to the point that if someone who knits in the Portuguese style, if they are going to knit garter stitch, they purl every row because it is quicker than knitting. So I thought, what better opportunity to learn how to do Portuguese knitting than with a stockinette based shawl? So that's what I did. So after I got to about here, I decided to start trying to do Portuguese knitting on the purl rows. So for about half of the shawl. And because, by the time you get halfway through, the purl rows the rows end up getting quite long. You're over 400 stitches by the time you finish the shawl. So like I said, I practiced, and it was very easy to get. The video I used was by Very Pink Knits, of course, which is my go-to for tutorials, and it was very easy to follow, very easy to understand what she was doing. And like I said, I was only doing it for the purling. My knitting is fast enough as it is. I don't need to change it, and it feels fine. The issue I have with purling is not only is it slower, but also after a while it hurts my hands a little bit, like my wrists cramp up. So I wanted to try and find another way. So even if I don't always knit or purl in the Portuguese style, I have that as an option to switch to if my regular purling starts to get a bit annoying or painful or whatever. So, and what I found with Portuguese style purling is that my tension is almost exactly the same. If anything, it's actually slightly tighter than my regular purling. Whereas if I try to purl continental, my gauge is way loose. It's all weird and off and everything. But the good thing with Portuguese style knitting or purling is that the gauge doesn't change, or at least for me, it doesn't get any looser. And if anything, it just sort of gets a little bit tighter, which makes everything fine. I mean, it doesn't make it doesn't make that much of a difference. And you can sort of, once you get the hang of it, you can adjust the tension as well, which is great. But I found it really easy to get the hang of, very intuitive to do, and it sort of made good sense as I was going. I'm still a little bit clumsy with it. It is not as fluid as I would like it to be, but that, I guess, is the same with anything. When you first start to do it, it's not going to be perfect. So, but I'm really looking forward to trying it out some more when I have more purling coming up. It's not one that I would find very easy to switch between, so I wouldn't use it for ribbing, because like I said, my actual knitting is faster than the Portuguese style, so I think I would find it quite fiddly to do ribbing in Portuguese style. I haven't tried it. I probably should, but I would use it for large amounts of purling. So for purl back rows if I'm doing a cardigan or a stockinette based shawl, it's definitely something I will keep going back to over time, I think, because it's I definitely found, I wouldn't necessarily say it was quicker than my regular purling, but it was definitely almost as fast, and I think it probably could get faster once I practice more with it and get more proficient at doing it. Right, so I am going to take a quick break and then we'll be back with works in progress. Okay, so we're back now. I've tried to readjust the camera a little bit so you guys can see Hugo a bit more, because otherwise his head sort of disappears on my lap. So sorry that the top of my head's cut off. It's the only way I could get this little guy in the shot, and I'm pretty sure you guys want to see him. So, and if you don't, let me know and I won't bother next time. Right, so works in progress. And I have just realised the first one on my list is not actually here. Actually, the first one on my list is my design shawl, which I'm not going to talk about. I'm still working on it. I'm about halfway through the applied edging, and so that should be done by the end of the month, no problem. Which I've actually decided now I'm going to change the design. The basic concept of the design, the stitch pattern, and is going to be the same. I'm just going to change the construction a little bit. Just because I'm not 100% happy with the way this one has turned out. It's still going to be great and very wearable. It wasn't quite what I had envisioned, so I think for the final version I'm going to change it up a bit. But I probably won't talk more about that for a while. And my next work in progress is the Mark Lee sweater that was designed by the lovely Elizabeth Doherty. And yeah, so I don't know if you've noticed, but it's not in this project bag right now. It is hanging on the hanger behind me there. That's the sweater. It's not finished. As you can probably tell, it's missing some sleeves, but I did finish the body, which is what I said I was going to do. So I can just find a picture to show you. It's the Mark Lee sweater. Sorry about the black and white, but get a good idea there. It's just a simple sort of boxy, loose fitting jumper, and I am knitting it out of some Plucking Knitter in the Primo base, and the colour is Gilded Age, And this is 75-25 superwash merino cashmere nylon. And it's this beautiful golden yellow colour. I have about 86 grams left in this ball and a few scraps of other balls left. So I have about probably 90-ish grams left to do the sleeves. Hugo, not for eating. Oh, hey. Okay, just because it's entertaining, I'm going to dangle yarn in his face. Such a silly one. Hey. Okay, no eating the plucky. So which is more than enough to do a pair of sleeves, and there probably will be even some left over. I finished a body, as you can tell. I've also done the neckband, which you probably can't tell. I have woven in all the ends so far. There were 24 ends to weave in, and I don't want to disturb Hugo right now, so I'm not going to get up and go, well, I probably should get up and go grab it. Yeah? You mind? I'm not sure he's going to be very happy with me if I get up. Do I risk it? Or do I wait? Alright, you know what? I'm going to do the rest of my works in progress, and then if he hasn't moved, I will figure something out. So my next work in progress is a pair of socks. They're my colourful, bright, sort of rainbow cauliflower clouds, whatever you want to call it, project bag. And these are a pair of socks. You see so far I've just done a pair of cuffs and I've just started on the stockinette body. These are just going to be a pair of plain vanilla socks. Really fun. In the squiggly yarn should give you an idea of what that it's a sock blank. Hugo, not for eating. He never goes for my yarn unless it's dangling right in his face, and then he's all about trying to catch it. So this is what a sock blank looks like. This is only half the sock blank, and then this is the other half. I posted a picture of this to Instagram last night. So this sock blank, when it arrived, was joined. It was one long piece of fabric, pre-knitted fabric. So for anyone who doesn't know what a sock blank is, it's just a long piece of pre-knitted, usually machine knitted fabric that is then dyed. So it's knit up in the plain bare yarn, and then it is dyed by the dyer. And then you knit from it. You just pull the yarn from it, and you knit as you go into your socks or whatever you're knitting. And then once you wash the yarn, once you wash the project, all the kinkiness comes out of it, and it's fine. But what I've done this time, because I do 2 at a time socks, is I folded the blank in half. Once I was ready to start. So I folded it in half exactly so it matched at the ends, and then all I did was with a pair of scissors I just snipped one of the stitches in the middle join, and then I just unpicked it until the blank split into 2. And that way I had 2 equal halves, and you didn't even need, the beauty with the sock blank is you don't actually even need a scale to do it, because you just fold it in half and snip. So that's what I did. And I saw this on another podcast. Hugo, hey, this is not for eating. You don't normally do this. Hey? I saw someone else do this on another podcast, and I cannot for the life of me remember who it was. So I'm really sorry, but credit where credit is due. This is not my idea. Someone else came up with this, or so I saw someone else do this first before I decided to try it out. And I should probably tell you who did the yarn. So the yarn is by Primrose Yarn Company. It's a one-of-a-kind sock blank in the Into the Woods colourway. So it's just 75 superwash merino, 25% nylon. It's her zigzag sock base, and it's 463 yards in 100 grams. So yeah, that's that. I started that because I started it yesterday. I had anticipated going to the cinema last night on my own, which may sound a bit sad. But Perry has gone to see the new X-Men Apocalypse. It is X-Men Apocalypse, yeah. With his mum and his sister last weekend when he was back while he's back in the UK. And I was like, okay, well, since he's watching it with his family, I'll watch it on my own here. There's something to do one evening. So I had intended to go watch it last night, which is why I started the socks, so I'd have something to knit on. But I came down with this horrendous headache yesterday. I have no idea what was wrong with me. I don't suffer from migraines, but if I had to take a guess, I'd probably say that's what a migraine felt like. It was really bad. And I have no idea where it came from. I had eaten, I wasn't dehydrated, I took painkillers, I did everything I thought to avert a headache, and nothing worked. So I'm not really sure what was going on. I feel better this morning, so that's good. Oop, and he's up. Is he leaving or is he just readjusting? I think he's just readjusting. Okay, so the next work in progress I have to show you is in another one of my drawstring bags. I don't really do drawstring bags too often. I'm not 100% happy with how they turn out for me, but every now and again I do some. And this is another version of the hat that I showed you a few weeks ago now that I designed. And I said I was going to be releasing a pattern for it soon, and I will. But I wanted to knit up another version of it just to sort of refine the pattern a little bit. Hey, Hugo? And so this is the second version that I'm working on, and I love doing this with hats, especially if it's like a worsted weight hat, because the cakes are quite chunky. And then the hat, once you get the ribbon going, it just fits perfectly around the cake. So for storing it, putting it away in a project bag, that's like, I love doing that because then the stitches are safe, the cake doesn't fall apart, and everything is just a nice little bundle. I love that. So the yarn is Madeline Tosh, Tosh Vintage in the Shire colorway. So it's just 100% superwash merino. It's my first time using Tosh Vintage, and I've heard so many good things about it. Yeah, you like it too? Yeah, so I've been really wanting to try it out, and I thought this would be the perfect colorway for this design. So as you can see, I'm only on the ribbing, and I'll talk to you a bit more about this in a second. I just love these colours. So I'm only on the ribbing. I'm literally halfway through the ribbing for this hat. So he's all about the dangly stuff today. Hey? And as you can see, I have a cable needles here. Hugo, what is up with you? He's not usually this bad, is he? So this is actually a sock needle. It's an Addy lace needles. I don't actually use these for socks anymore because you can see the coating is rubbed off there, and that makes it really annoying to knit with. But I decided to try and do a provisional cast on with a spare cable needle, so that when it comes time to knitting it together, because for the other version I did a folded brim, so you knit the brim really long and then fold it over, and then I knit the two. I picked up a stitch from the cast on edge and knit it together with a stitch from the needle I was working on to basically close the brim. What I wanted to try and do this time was using a provisional cast on, so you don't have to deal with picking up stitches, which can be a little bit fiddly. I mean, it was fine to do for me, but I can understand for a lot of people that doing that may not be the most comfortable thing to do. So I thought if the stitches are already on a cable, then it'll be much easier to just knit together for a round as you go. The trick is for this, and I will mention this in the pattern when I write it up, is you need to use a flexible cable, like you have on sock needles, or basically anything other than the chiagu, the chiagu style cables, which are basically metal. They don't have a lot of give. You need a cable that will be that will bend very easily. You don't want one that has no memory, because otherwise it's going to make, especially knitting those first few rounds, and knitting in general, it's going to make it very difficult and very tedious and not fun. Cute little donut stitch marker. But yeah, so like I said, I only started this quite late last night, so I'm only about halfway through the ribbing, and I'll probably get this finished quite quickly. So this won't take me very long, and once I get this finished, I just need to write up the pattern, and then I will probably be getting it out to testers in early June. And I already have testers. I need to contact them, but I have enough testers already, so that should be fine. And then hopefully I'll be able to get the pattern out by the end of the month. That is the plan. Okay. I'll need to get Perry to help me take some pictures at some point as well, because Yeah, anyway. I think that was everything I was going to say about this. Yeah, I haven't fully decided on a name, but the pattern that I'm using is basically quite similar. Well, the texture is the same as my cobblestones socks. So I was thinking of doing cobblestones hat, but there's already a pattern out there called cobblestones hat. So I think I'm going to give this one a slightly different name. Not sure yet, but yeah. And then all I've done is I've just poked the needles of the from the sock needles I'm using for the cable at the bottom just through the cake so it sticks up, and it just sits really nicely like that, and I just love doing that with my my yarn cakes. Right, okay, I'm done with works in progress. I'm gonna go grab the Mark Lee sweater because I really want to show it to you, and this little guy's just gonna have to deal with it. Alright, so give me a second. Okay, well, needless to say, Hugo was not impressed by that. But here is the sweater anyway, as it is at the moment. Like I said, I finished the body. The bind off is a little bit crumpled at the moment. It will lay flatter once it is blocked. And as you can see, the front is definitely narrower than the back, but that's just because of these side seams, the way they, you can see that they move, they travel to the front, so that gives a nice sort of diagonal line shaping at the sides there. You can see that. And I really loved working with the plucky. I didn't alternate the whole way through, and you can see it's actually really good color matching between the skeins. I did transition between two skeins in this section. So what I did was when I got to the last 15 to 20 grams of a skein, I would start alternating with the new skein. I wouldn't alternate the whole way through, just over 15 to 20 grams, and that would usually blends it enough that it, if there is any differences, but there really doesn't look to be any differences, and the skeins are pretty well matched. So yeah, it's pretty good at this point. I really like it. And I also, this is the horizontal braid where I added in the contrast in the dark grey, and I really like how that looks. And I've tried it on. It is nice, it is loose, it is boxy, which is the intention. And then I just need to pick up for the sleeves and do those now. And because this is kind of a drop sleeve look, the sleeves aren't actually going to be all that long because this already comes part way down the shoulder. And yeah, and that's that. I really like the ribbing detail, the style of ribbing that she's chosen. And then I just did the neckband as well, nice and simple. It's a nice open neck, which I like as well. It's really nice. I'm really, really excited about getting this finished. So yeah, that's my Mark Lee sweater. Or so far. And like I said, I'm knitting the 45-inch size, 45.5-inch size, I think. And my gauge is ever so slightly off, so it should be slightly bigger than that, which is going to be quite a bit larger than my my actual bust measurement, which is good because the sweater is supposed to be boxy, it's supposed to be worn with positive ease, which is what I'm going for. Yeah, readjusting this a little bit since Hugo's gone up. Right, so I think we are now on to acquisitions. I have one thing to show you this week, or actually it's two things, but it's the same thing. This is actually probably the last thing that I've ordered in quite a long time. I ordered this from Maya a while ago, but my order's from the Wool Barn. It's from Maya at the Wool Barn. I'd been in touch with her about a couple months ago now. It must have been March. Yeah, I think it must have been March. After I'd gotten back from the UK, I'd got in touch with Maya. My sister-in-law had asked me to knit her wedding shawl, which I was really, really happy to do. And I was asking her about what colour she wanted it to be. Did she want it in white or cream, or what was the colour scheme of her wedding? And so she's got, I think her bridesmaids' dresses are sort of like a pale pink, blush, peachy-ish colour, and so she wanted something in the similar sort of line. And I got in touch with Maya and I asked, if I sent her a sample of some fabric or something the right colour, would she be able to dye something up as a custom order for me? And she said she couldn't do custom orders at the time, and I totally understand why, because I've stopped doing custom orders for very similar reasons as her. So I totally understood. She said, but she had a couple of skeins in a colour that sounded very similar to what I was looking for, and if I wanted, she could send those. I could buy those from her. I said, that sounds perfect. So she sent me pictures, and I checked with my sister-in-law first. I didn't just go ahead and buy them without checking. But so this is what I got. Very much not my colours at all, but they're not for me. It's for my sister-in-law, and this is on her silky singles base in the pink pearl colourway. So this is 70% superwash merino and 30% silk, and this is the same base I used for the edging on my across the pond shawl, just in this pinkish colour. And actually, I think this is going to be the perfect shade of pink. It's pink, but it's got some peachy undertones to it, and it's a very, very subtle wash of colour. And I don't think it's going to, even if it isn't exactly the same colour, it's not gonna stand out so badly against everything else. And I sent my sister-in-law some pictures of different shawl patterns that we discussed the sort of shape and style that she likes, and I think she wants a crescent shape shawl, and we sort of she sort of said she wanted something that was going to be quite simple and elegant, because she's got some lace on her dress, so she doesn't want something that's going to be too detailed to detract from her dress. Totally understandable. Who wants that? So I sent her a few pictures of different shawls and styles and designs of different patterns. I think I sent her about 6 or 7 different ones to let me know if there was one in particular that she was like, yeah, that's perfect, I'll have that. Or, were there elements of different ones that she liked that I could then come up with something different for her. So there were 2 actually that I sent her that she liked, but she liked different things about both of them. So what I'm going to do is try and probably come up with something new that incorporates the design elements that she liked from the other 2 shawls in some way. So that will be coming up on the needles very soon, because her wedding is in less than 2 months now. So I want to get this going. I need to do some swatching first and get some ideas on how the design element's going to work, and then yeah, so that'll be a new shawl. And I haven't decided yet, depending on how it turns out. I may or may not write up a pattern for it, but yeah, looking forward to that. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's it for acquisitions. Well, that is it for acquisitions. There's nothing else. But I'll move on to knit along and giveaway news. So we still have the sweater cal that's going on. It's going on all year. And you've seen my 4th sweater for the year so far. This is the year of sweaters for me. It is May, and I'm knitting number 4. So I don't think I'll be knitting one next month, but we will see how it goes. Or I might do one next month and then not do one in July, but we'll see. Then we have, so that's going on. There will be prizes at the end of each quarter. So the next prize giveaway for the sweater cal is going to be at the end of June. And I haven't fully decided what the prize is going to be yet, so stay tuned. And yeah, all the rules and everything are in the threads in the group, so make sure you check that out. Then we have the Expert Yarn Cal, and that's going to be ending next Tuesday. So I'll be doing prizes on Wednesday when I podcast next week. So make sure you enter your finished objects. And again, rules and everything are in the thread, and pictures of the prizes and everything are there as well. And then we have the Budding Bluebells Cal that's been co-hosted by myself and the lovely Nicole of the Knitting Expat Podcast. Nicole provided the yarn and I designed the pattern, and that's my shawl hanging up back there behind me. So make sure again that you go and check out the threads in both of our groups. I am hosting the chatter thread in my group, so if you have any questions or anything about the shawl, or you just want to chat and show off your projects, come along and join in the fun. And Nicole is going to be hosting the finished objects thread in her group. So rules and everything for entry are in the chat thread, so make sure you check that out. And I showed you prizes that I was going to donate for the knit along in last week's episode. And I believe Nicole's going to be donating some prizes as well. She got in touch recently to say that she's going to be doing podcasting soon. So hopefully she'll be talking more about that. And then, and like I said, I have some pattern prizes to give away for the chatter thread. So yeah, make sure you take part. I'm trying not to chatter too much in the chatter threads because, like I said, I am going to be doing prizes from the chatter thread, but I do pop in, I do read everything, and I do comment if someone asks a question. So I will also always answer questions, but if I don't always necessarily chatter, it's just because I don't want to keep drawing my name all the time, which does happen. Right, and then the last knit along new thing that we have going on is the Beyond Vanilla Cal one, or BVKAL one. I did a separate video talking about my latest sock collection, which is Beyond Vanilla Socks Part 1. And I'm so excited that so many of you are jumping on board with this and are really enjoying the patterns. And some of you already finished your first pairs of socks, which is great, and I love it. And I love seeing all the posts on Instagram, and I check the hashtag almost every day. So yeah, really, really fun. And thank you so much to everyone who is taking part and who has purchased the patterns or one of the patterns. It's been great, and I really, really appreciate it. We have a couple of additional prizes donated. I did show you the prizes in that separate video that I'm donating, but we've had the lovely Paula of Knitting Pipeline has donated 4 pattern prizes. So for 4 winners can choose a pattern of their choice from Paula's Ravelry shop, and I will link that. If I remember, I will link it in the show notes. And then we will also have, which is incredibly generous. Thank you so much, Paula. And then the lovely Julie of Suffolk Socks has offered to donate a skein of yarn as a prize as well. And it's going to be winner's choice from her range of Eden Cottage yarns that she stocks in her online shop, which is a beautiful yarn, not one that I've had the pleasure to knit with yet, but definitely one I would like to get my hands on at some point. And she is going to be sending it directly to the winner. So the winner can choose the colour, we can pick their yarn from the Eden Cottage yarns range, and she will send it directly to them, or to you, if you win. So thank you so much for those prize donations. That is incredibly generous, and I really, really appreciate it. I think that is it for that stuff. I'm going to take a quick break and get set up to talk to you about the Coffee with Cece pattern collection. This came out back in March, I believe, and I'm so sorry that it's taken me this long to get around to reviewing it. Cece had gone in touch with me, and Cece is Cece Ullman from the Geeky Girls Knit podcast, and she'd gone in touch with me a while ago, back when the patterns were released, to ask if I would be interested in doing a review. And I said I would, but at the time I was in the UK and that I was going to be really busy, and it wouldn't be until like the end of April that I'd be able to do it. She said that's fine. It is now the end of May, and I feel really bad that I hadn't done it yet. So today's the day. I'm going to do it. And so I am just going to take a minute, get set up, and I will be back. Right, okay, back now, ready to do the review. I have Perry's iPad because he left it for me very nicely. It's one of the reasons why I haven't done a review yet, because every time I come to film the podcast, I've forgotten to ask Perry to leave me his iPad because he takes it to work, or when he travels, he takes it with him. So this time I asked him to leave it with me, and thankfully he did, so I can do a review. Oh, jeez. Oh, Hugo. Ow. Okay, you're fine. Jeez, cat. What is wrong with you? Oh, he just tried to jump onto my lap and his back legs missed. So all I got was his front claws digging into my legs while he's holding on for dear life. Oh, okay, he's now on my lap. He's happy. He's fine. He's okay. Hey? Was that traumatic for you, trying to get on my lap? He is so pathetic. It is ridiculous sometimes. Huh? You're right. You're going to sit there and be quiet now while I do this. All right. Okay, we will try this again. Coffee with Cece is the pattern collection I am reviewing. There we go, this is probably a better angle. I'm sorry for any glares. But yeah, you may or may not have already heard of this. probably already have on several other podcasts who have reviewed it. And I know that Jilly of the Knitting Broomstick podcast is hosting a year-long Coffee with CC knit-along to knit all the patterns in the collection. And there are 7 patterns. Oh, geez, that's not good. Look at this side. This side works. At the right angle, there we go. It's 7 patterns inspired by coffees and caffeine in general. So there are, like I said, there are 7 patterns. There are 6 socks and 1 shawl. So there's a really good sort of intro page showing you all the different patterns that are in there. So you start out with your basic vanilla sock, and you move up through the different levels of difficulty to the most difficult patterns at the end. I don't think any of them are that difficult or beyond the realms of capability for most knitters. Some may just take more concentration than others. Who doesn't love a good stack of knitwear? But basically, she also... where is it? So a little bit of an intro about the collection and what the thoughts behind them. The French Vanilla Cappuccino Socks is her plain vanilla pattern. It's actually written very well. The instructions in the ebook, words are failing, in the ebook gives you directions on how to measure, foot circumference, your toe, your foot length, your leg length, measuring your heel and all that sort of stuff. And there are photo tutorials on how to do that. She gives you toe up and cuff down written instructions on how to do just a plain vanilla sock. And if I'm not mistaken, all of the sock patterns in the collection have both toe up and cuff down instructions, which is great. So you can knit them however you like. Then the first patterned sock in the collection is the Espresso Macchiato socks, which are great for self-striping. Self-striping yarn, so you can see that there. And the pattern gives you clear directions on how to do that, and you can make any adjustments and how to do some adjustments if you'd like. Very simple chart, and again the patterns all have charts as well as written instructions on how to do them. Then there's the peppermint mocha socks, which look like a lot of fun, and they look like, Hugo, this is not very polite behaviour. What are you doing, Hugo? He's interested in the box that my camera's sat on, and he's off. He can go explore the sewing table. So the peppermint mocha socks, which look like a lot of fun and probably a pattern that I will try at some point. I just have so many things on my list, which is a bit of an issue. But I really like that style, and I think I will have to give that a go. Again, it looks like a really fun use of slip stitches. So yeah, looking forward to trying that out. And again, toe up and cuff down. Then the third pair of socks in the list are the caramel latte socks, which looks like a really fun textured pattern, which again looks like it would be really fun and not too complicated at all. There's some small cables, but they're more like twists, and yeah, it looks like a really fun pattern actually. I look forward to trying that one out as well at some point. Then there is the coffee date shawl, which is the only shawl in the collection, and that's a really fun 3-colour shawl to knit. And Hugo is coming back now, so here's the interruption. So there was no Hugo last week, and now this week, Hugo, no one wants to see your bum. So this week we get all the Hugo interruptions, including his bum that no one wants to see. Hugo, seriously, come on, get down. Final bum shot. Oh god, that cat. Yes, the coffee date shawl, again, it's the 3 skeins of fingering weight yarn. And another thing I really love about Cece's patterns is the difficulty levels and how she's ranked them. And so she uses these cute little coffee cups to rank the difficulty of each of her patterns. So this one is a 3 coffee cup. So it goes up to 5, so 5 being the most difficult. So yeah, I really like, again, really fun playing with textures and different stitch patterns in the shawl. Really, really fun. And I think I'm about to sneeze. Nope, it went away. Then you hate that moment when you're about to sneeze and then you can't. Then there's the strawberries and cream frappe socks, which are the 5th pair of socks in the pattern collection, I believe, or the 5th pattern in the collection. Really, really fun socks there, and they do look like little strawberries almost. But I think they're cables. Yeah, it's a cable texture. That looks a bit like strawberries, which I think is really fun. And I really like the ribbing and the cuff detail at the top of the sock. Don't know how well you'll be able to see that. That cuff detail at the top there is quite unique and different. And then I think the last pattern in the collection is the I Love You More Than Pumpkin Spice socks, which again is a really fun and very interesting looking pumpkin cable going down the front and some really fun textures going on at the back there as well. So a really, really fun collection of patterns. I think Cece's done a really great job. They're all really well laid out. You've got good instructions for both toe up, cuff down, charts, instructions on how to measure your foot and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's just been really good fun to look at these patterns, and thank you, Cece, for the opportunity to review them for you. And yeah, I really like how they've turned out. And Cece's also very generously offered a copy for a giveaway. So what I'll be doing is one copy of the pattern collection will be used as a prize for the socks knit along that we have going on at the moment. So thank you so much, Cece, for that. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I definitely encourage you guys to go out and check the patterns. You can purchase them individually or as part of the collection. And I'm not sure if Cece still has them going in the print form, because she had them printed as books as well. So I don't know if they're still available in print form or not. But definitely make sure you go and check out those patterns. They are a lot of fun. And also, if you plan on knitting them, make sure you check out the Knitting Broomstick podcast group, because like I said, she's doing a knit along for those patterns at the moment. So moving on to questions and answers. There were actually no new questions this week. There was one that I answered in the thread, but none that needed to be answered on the podcast. The only question was about the hat pattern, whether I was going to release it, and I already spoke about that. The questions I have for you guys this week. I have 2 questions. First of all, I tried Portuguese knitting for the first time this last week, or I should say Portuguese purling. And I'm curious, have any of you tried it? Do you knit that way, like as your standard knitting? What do you think of it? What do you think of Portuguese knitting? Have you heard of it before? Is this your first time you're hearing of it? Is it something that's interesting to you? Have you tried any other quote-unquote non-standard styles of knitting that go beyond the traditional English or continental style? And what do you think about it? Is there just general thoughts in general? General thoughts in general? I can't English today. And also, second question I had for you guys is the reviews that I'm doing. I don't do them very often. I do them every now and again if a designer asks me to do them and I'm interested in the patterns that they are offering, then of course I will review them. But would you prefer to see those types of review videos as reviews as separate videos, or do you like seeing them as part of the podcast? Because if you prefer to see them as separate videos, I am more than happy to do that. Because like I said, they are few and far between, and usually my podcasts are pretty heavy in terms of the content. So, and it's probably one of the reasons why I'd forgotten to do this pattern reviews, this collection reviews so far, is because my podcast has been so heavy with content lately that I just haven't had time or anywhere to fit them in, and I'm not wanting to make the podcast too long. So if you guys prefer to see those things as separate videos, then that is great, because like I said, they don't happen every week. But when they do happen, then I don't have to make the podcasts extra long by adding them in there. I can do them as separate videos. But if you prefer to see them as part of the podcast, then by all means let me know and I'll keep doing them as part of the podcast. As it happens, I have another collection pattern review next week. It's a collection of garments, like sweaters and jumpers. So I'd be interested to know if you'd rather hear about that as a separate video or in the podcast. No shop news this week. Still working on it. You know what? I'm probably going to stop mentioning it until I have something to talk about. Right. I'm now moving on to the Middle East Live segment. First things first, I wanted to say something really quickly. I know I mentioned last week how sometimes I think it can be a little bit rude for people to ask where you come from. And I don't mean that in a... I don't actually mind the question. I really don't. I get asked it all the time and it doesn't bother me. What I find rude sometimes is the connotation or the intention behind the question, or the tone of voice that's used sometimes can be quite... can say a lot about what they're actually asking, rather than... it's the tone and attitude behind the question that bothers me sometimes, and the insinuation of what they're asking, rather than the actual question. The question where you come from is incredibly common over here, especially when you're in a society that is largely made up of expats who come from all over the world. It's generally one of the first questions that I get asked, or people get asked in general when you meet people for the first time, is where are you from? Because it's highly unlikely that the person you meet is from where you are from. So other questions, the very common expat questions that you get asked, or I say expat questions that expats get asked when you meet each other for the first time, if you're over here or wherever you're living in a society that's largely made up of expats. Questions like, where are you from? What do you do? What brought you here? How long do you plan on staying here? What do you think about the terrible driving? Those are all the sorts of questions that come up very quickly in conversation. It's basically the small chat, small talk, ice-breaking kind of questions to get to know people quickly. And initially, when we first moved over here, it was really funny, but not here necessarily specifically, but the Middle East in general. It's just one of those things that you get asked all the time, and I generally don't mind those questions. It's like I said, it's usually if there is an underlying insinuation of they're asking because they're actually wanting to know, they want to sort of gauge like how wealthy you are, for example, or how prestigious your job is, and that those sorts of things bug me. If you're asking to genuinely find out and get to know me, then fine, I don't mind that. But it's when you can tell that the question isn't genuine, then that kind of bugs me. But anyway, I realised I didn't quite explain myself very well last week. I'm not even sure if I explained myself very well this week. But anyway, so the other thing I wanted to talk about, and this one is a bit of a sort of undenied about whether or not I should mention it. But I will, because I think it's important to put it out there and just clarify a little bit. So I mentioned I was going to be applying for my US visa, and I'm applying for an F2 visa, which is a spousal visa, because my husband has an F1 because he's a student in the US. So I get the F2, which is a spousal visa. So I had to go to the embassy for an appointment to get that visa. And the reason... and I've talked about it before on the podcast, but in case you're new, the reason I had to get a visa now is, whilst I'm a British citizen, I also have Iranian nationality. So I'm a dual citizen of Iran and the UK, and that is one of a new legislation came out in the US earlier this year that says that anyone who's a dual national with Iran and another Western country no longer qualifies for the visa waiver program, or the ESTA. So I now have to get a formal visa if I want to go to the US, even just as a tourist. So I just thought we'd get the F2 because, that's only as long as Perry's a student, which is fine. It's pretty much all I need for now, and then I can get a tourist visa later if I need to. Anyway, so when I had an appointment at the embassy, earlier this week on Sunday, and so I went in, and he was asking, the guy who was processing my application, he was asking why I was getting a visa now, because my husband finishes studying at the end of this year, and he was like, why didn't you apply a year ago when he first started studying? Why are you applying now? And I explained, it's because I no longer qualify for the ESTA. And his first question was this because I had studied jihad at a school somewhere or something? And I was just like, no, that's not the reason. The reason is because I happen to also be an Iranian citizen as well as a British citizen. Therefore, your government has told me that I'm not allowed to come to your country unless I get a visa. I wasn't quite that direct. I was a bit more polite about it, but I was a little bit taken aback by his question. And his response to that was, oh, so you have jihad in your blood? I was just like, oh dear. Like, seriously, I was so shocked by his statement. it was so rude and so insensitive, and just, I don't know, it completely caught me off guard. And I didn't say anything. I just kind of went with it. I was like, well, apparently you think I do. But it was, yeah, it wasn't nice. It was unexpected. I kind of expected more from someone who works at an embassy and who lives in this region, and works here. I would have expected more from them. It was just a level of ignorance and insensitivity that I wasn't expecting to encounter at the US Embassy. Yeah, I expected more from them. And the reason why, a big part of me wanted to say something to him. I wanted to put him straight and explain how wrong his statement was and how rude and insensitive it was to say something like that. And the thing is, it's not like my interview was private. I don't know if anyone has experienced this or not, but the US Embassy here anyway, when you go to do your visa interviews, there are just cubicles. It's like when you go to the bank and you have cubicles, they are, the tellers, the cashiers at the bank, they're all next to each other and they each have their own little station, but they're all next to each other and everyone can hear what everyone else is saying. So I'm stood there and this guy is saying this to me and there's a whole room of people waiting to be, everyone can hear what's being said. And I'm just anyway, was not very impressed by that. Big part of it, and a big reason I didn't say anything, was because the guy standing there, he's holding my passport and he could decide whether or not he gives me a visa. It really wasn't going to help my cause if I started being argumentative with him. But what really bugged me is that he just doesn't understand what jihad means. So he's using it with such a negative connotation, and jihad in general in the Western media, and it's probably, it is the fault of the Islamic extremists, is being completely misinterpreted and misused. It's not what everyone seems to believe it is. So for clarity, and in case you were wondering, the Arabic word jihad, I've got this written down so I wouldn't get it wrong, is often translated as to mean holy war, and that is not what it means at all. In a purely linguistic sense, it means struggling or to strive for something. Jihad is not a violent concept by its nature. Like in Islam, jihad is not a violent concept at all. It is not a declaration of war against other religions. And it is worth noting, and I've taken this excerpt from a website because I wanted to get it right and I didn't want to misinterpret anything. So it is worth noting that the Quran specifically refers to Jews and Christians as people of the book, who should be protected and respected. All three faiths worship the same God. The word Allah is just God in Arabic. It is not, it doesn't, Allah and God are the same person, same thing, same entity. It's just a different word for the same thing. And it's used by Christian Arabs as well as Muslims. And it was just, anyway, so like I said, the biggest thing that bothered me about a statement, it was just that he used the term jihad in such a negative way to mean such a negative thing, where it's a complete misuse of the term. Modern Islamic extremists have just completely used jihad as a way to justify what they're doing, which is completely wrong and is not justified at all. And it's completely skewed the meaning of the term. I'm not a religious person at all. I don't really talk about religion on the podcast because, frankly, it's not relevant. And also, it's such a divisive subject. I don't really want to offend anybody. I don't believe in religion. I'm not a religious person. But frankly, if you are religious and you believe in a God and you believe in your faith, then all the power to you. I don't judge. You want to go to church on Sunday? Go to church on Sunday. You want to go to mosque or synagogue, whatever you want to do. I do not judge. I genuinely, and I've been to church, I've been to mosque. I don't think I've ever been to a synagogue just because it never came up. But, I've done all those things and I've been to those. It's just not for me. But I will go with other people if I'm in a situation to support them or to be there for a friend or whatever. It's just, but I don't talk about it because, I don't think it's relevant to knitting or to my podcast. But I felt like I needed to say this because I just feel that Muslims and Islam in general in the Western media is so negatively portrayed for the actions of so few people. The majority are being so heavily penalized, and it's just not right. And I just felt like it was necessary to make this point. So sorry about the tangent. I'm getting a little bit ranty about it. I did get my visa. I have to go back and pick up my passport. He did approve my visa in the end. I have to go back and pick it up either later today or tomorrow, probably. It'll probably be tomorrow at this rate. I don't think I'll have everything done in time to leave. There's only a half an hour slot where I can go collect it, so I'm not sure I'm going to have everything finished with the podcast and uploaded before I have to go out. So we will see how that goes. But yeah, so again, apologies for the slight rantiness of that. I hope it made some sense. If you have any questions about it, please let me know. And if I don't know the answers, I will point you in the right direction. I'm more than happy to help answer questions about stuff like that. I don't necessarily talk about it on the podcast, like I said, but if you have questions about it, please do ask me. I don't get offended by the questions. If people want to know more about it, I'm more than happy to help, like I said, help point in the right direction. Right, so moving on to the final segment, which is the week in review. A quick little Ginger update. He is now gone to his new home. He left us on Friday morning. His new owners came by to pick him up, and everything went well. The guy who I spoke to on the phone, is just his English isn't that great. It's not that he's not interested. That uneasy feeling I had was mostly put aside by the fact that he was very quiet. He didn't talk very much, but again, I think he was more nervous than anything else. But he seemed pretty okay, and I did tell him, feel free to send me a message, let me know if you're having any issues. I'm more than happy to help you out and all that. And he did send me a couple of messages over the couple of days after, but things seem to have calmed down, and I'm really happy that he's gone to a new home. And I will let you know if anything happens. If anything else happens with him, I will definitely let you guys know. I know you guys all really enjoyed seeing him on the podcast and seeing his pictures on Instagram and stuff, so it's been great to have that support there whilst we were going through the fostering phase. It was really funny because I had to take Perry to the airport on Friday night for his trip to London, and I half expected to find another cat waiting for me when I got home, because the last time I took him to the airport I came back and found Ginger. So anyway, the nightmares have eased up, thankfully. That was a great relief. This last week has been nightmare free, which has been woohoo, awesome. But a few people had commented after last week's episode and said that it sounded a lot like I was having lucid dreams or lucid dreaming, which is where you're aware of the fact that you're dreaming, but you can't really, your conscious mind is aware of the fact that you're dreaming. And it's a very interesting concept, and there are people who, work towards actually inducing that kind of dream state where you're aware of the fact that you're dreaming, and, there's all sorts of ideas around that, which is quite interesting. But it sounds more like what I was going through was lucid nightmares rather than lucid dreaming, and that is also a thing, where you have a nightmare, but you're aware of the fact that it's a nightmare, and your conscious mind is aware of it. Not so much fun. But I do also realise that it's probably my mind's way of telling me, or trying to work through some things that I may be anxious about or worried about and stuff like that. So I'm just hoping that it will ease up. And anyway. So like I mentioned before, I went to Dubai last week twice. So I went again on Wednesday evening after I podcasted, and I got back Thursday night. I actually watched Deadpool on the plane on the flight over there and back. Which was interesting because it wasn't censored at all. All the swearing was there. There was no censoring. So yeah, I actually checked afterwards, and I think the film was almost exactly as long as it said it should be online, so it was fine. So that was interesting, and I enjoyed the film, and I'm glad I got to watch it. I actually had to watch it in two halves because the flight from Bahrain to Dubai is so short that you don't actually have enough time to watch a full film. So what I always end up doing is I watch half a film on the way out and half the film on the way back, which it works. But yeah, so I just thought a little update on that one, just because I'd mentioned about cinemas and things being censored over here. And there have been times where I've been watching a film on the plane, and because I'm flying with an Arabic airline, so Emirates or Etihad or one of the other Middle Eastern airlines or Qatar, the films have been slightly censored, or like scenes have been cut. But Deadpool, it was all there. What else? Oh, so Thursday in Dubai was a bit of a crazy day. It was manically packed full of stuff that I was doing. I had a meeting in the morning, which went really well. Then I met up with my friend Josie for lunch, which was also really lovely to see her. I hadn't seen her in a while. And then I went back and I met up with my friend who I was staying with and her kids, and we went to Dubai Mall. In the afternoon, we went to the Cheesecake Factory for dinner, and just hung out with her and her kids. One of her twins, Franca, I think she ate a little bit too much and she started feeling a little bit unwell. And when she feels unwell, all she wants is to be cuddled and carried. And I was just like, I'm all over that. I'll carry her. And so I carried a 3.5-year-old all around Dubai Mall. She was pretty heavy, but not as heavy as her sister. Her twin sister they're non-identical twins. So her twin sister is actually a bit bigger, but taller and heavier than Franca. So I was joking with my friend. I was like, I'm really glad that it's Franca, not the other one, because frankly, my arms were already starting to ache after all the carrying. I had to keep readjusting her from one side to the other. And but it was so sweet, and she's so adorable. I can't say no. When a child wants to be hugged and carried, I'm all over that. So, but the next day my wrists really hurt. So it wasn't good for knitting on Friday. I didn't do much knitting over the weekend. Actually, had to give my hands a bit of a break from it. But yeah, otherwise we spent Friday all day at home. We didn't really do much. Just hung out. Perry had some work stuff to do. I had some stuff to do. It was life. It was not particularly exciting. Like I said, Perry went away on Friday night, and so he doesn't get back till Saturday night. So I have a few more days on my own. I'm going to try and go to the cinema tonight, I think. Hopefully, if the headache doesn't come back, I will be able to go to the movies, which will be fun. The geckos are back. We've got geckos again. I don't know, if you've been a long time watcher of the podcast, you'll know last year I was talking about the fact that we had geckos. I think it was around episode 11 was the first time they showed up on the podcast. They were running around the wall behind me. We spotted one the other day in our living room. He was like circling the living room at the top. So yeah, the geckos are back. They've been gone for a while. We haven't seen a gecko in our house for a long time, but the geckos are back. And then we've also been starting to get some really nasty bugs. We get cockroaches and beetles and stuff. They don't generally bug me. They usually only happen to show up when Perry's around, which is like, I've always been incredibly grateful for that, because I don't like bugs. I'm not scared of bugs. Like, I can handle being in the same room as a bug, if that makes sense. Like, I am terrified of bees and wasps. Like, they terrify me to a point where I realize my fear is completely irrational. It's not completely irrational, but it is reaching an irrational level of fear. But I don't like bugs in general. I don't like killing things either, which is a bit of a contradiction. So I may not like something, but I can't kill it either. So if there's like a spider or whatever, I'm like, I can't do that. If I can't catch it and let it go outside, I can't kill it. I can't be the one to do that. I can't do it. But the other day, I think it was a couple of days ago, there was a really nasty cockroach that showed up in the house, and I had a really freak out moment over it, and I managed to get it out of the house. I was like, go away. But then there was the other day, Derek spotted a bug. It was like a small little, it might have been an ant or a small spider or something. He tried to eat it. It was really funny. Perry was home still. It was before he went away. And he tried to eat, like, the boys are pathetic when it comes to hunting bugs. Like, they can't kill a thing to save their life. Like, they'll put their paw on it and they lift it up and the bug runs away, and they're just like, what happened? Or they keep patting at it, but they don't kill it. They never kill it. And so he tried to eat this bug, and then as soon as it got into his mouth, Derek freaked out. Like, he had a proper freak out moment, because I obviously was still alive and moving, and he was just like, what's going on? It was funny to watch. I don't think we have any poisonous spiders or anything here, so I'm never really too worried, but I generally don't let them eat bugs. If I see them going after one, I try and get it away from them. But yeah, it's just, bugs are nasty. Don't like them. I'm kind of glad the geckos are around, because they help keep down the bug population. But they need to up their game. That's all I'm going to say. They need to get on with it. And I think that pretty much sums it up for me this week. I don't have anything else to talk to you about. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're having a great week. Come join in the knit-alongs that we've got going on. There are loads of them. And thank you so much to everyone who keeps coming back every week. I really, really appreciate it. So until next time, take care. Happy knitting. Bye.